So let's talk about OpenAI. Right now, they're the biggest name in AI, hands down. We're talking a valuation in the hundreds of billions. They seemed totally unstoppable. But behind the curtain, it looks like a real crisis is brewing. And now, well, now there are signs that the company is actually getting scared.
Just listen to this. This is an advocate who spoke out against the company. And according to recent reports, OpenAI is now literally knocking on the doors of its critics, asking questions. I mean, that's a move that suggests a company that's really feeling the heat, right? A company that's afraid of what people are saying about them. And it seems like it all stems from one recent, pretty shocking announcement.
Yep, you heard that right. Ads are coming to ChatGPT. Now look, for almost any other startup out there, this would just be a normal Tuesday. Business as usual. But for OpenAI, this is a huge, stunning admission that something has gone very, very wrong.
And hey, those aren't my words. Those are the words of OpenAI's own CEO, Sam Altman. He called ads a last resort. And, well, when a company turns to its last resort, you have to start asking.
It really turns out this whole ad announcement is just the tip of the iceberg. There are some deep, really fundamental problems plaguing this AI giant, from its core technology all the way to its finances. So let's break down what's really going on here.
So here's the plan. We're going to break down the 4 core problems that have pushed OpenAI right to the brink. And then we'll end with the trillion-dollar question that's facing its future.
Okay, first up, let's really look at why this ad announcement isn't just some business pivot. It's actually a symptom of much, much bigger issues. The truth is, the cracks in OpenAI's perfect facade have been showing for a while now.
I mean, the warning signs are everywhere. You've got serious talk of the company going bankrupt by 2027. They're reportedly losing millions of dollars every single day. User traffic has been falling for a solid year, key leaders are heading for the exits, and huge partners like Salesforce and even Apple have decided to ditch them for their rival, Gemini. This is not the picture of a healthy company. And all of this leads us straight to the first core problem.
It all starts with their biggest strength, or what was their biggest strength, the technology itself. The very foundation of OpenAI's massive success is hitting a wall, a very, very expensive wall.
Okay, so it all boils down to this thing called the scaling problem. For years, the rule in AI was super simple. Just make the models bigger, feed them more and more data, give them more computing power, and boom, they'll get exponentially smarter. But here's the thing, that rule, it looks like it's broken. The huge, massive gains we were seeing, they're gone. And now we're just seeing diminishing returns.
And what's really fascinating about this is just how reliable this law used to be. It all started back in 2017 with Google's big transformer paper. Then GPT-3 came along and basically validated the whole theory, sparking this huge frenzy. GPT-4 leaped forward exactly as predicted. But then, with GPT-5, the magic just stopped. Even though it was bigger and way more expensive, it failed to blow away its predecessor. The curve just flattened.
Thinking that just making these models bigger will lead to some godlike intelligence is a bit like saying this. You can't just take that early growth and extrapolate it forever. Sooner or later, you hit some fundamental limits. Little Timmy is not going to fly, and just adding more data isn't creating true intelligence.
And this car wash example just perfectly illustrates the core issue. When someone asked ChatGPT if they should walk or drive to a nearby car wash, it actually advised them to walk. It completely missed the point that the car itself has to be there to get washed. It can process language, sure, but it has no real-world common sense. And while OpenAI is kind of stuck on this problem, its rivals are surging ahead.
Which brings us to OpenAI's second major problem. They are no longer the only game in town. Not by a long shot. That massive head start they had, it's evaporating, and it's happening fast.
I mean, just look at these numbers. In a single year, ChatGPT's market share reportedly dropped from a dominant 86% all the way down to 65%. That is a massive loss, and a huge chunk of it is going to one specific competitor, Google's Gemini.
So while ChatGPT is still really good at things like writing and conversation, Gemini is proving to be much better at tasks that involve real-time information, and importantly, multimodal inputs, like using your phone's camera. You could argue this is way more useful for the average person, and it's almost certainly why Apple chose Gemini for all its devices.
And the thing is, the threat is coming from all sides. Anthropic's Claude is a super serious contender. You've got open-source models from China gaining a ton of ground, and Google is already hard at work on next-generation projects like Genie.
It really feels like OpenAI is surrounded.
Okay, so this leads us to the third problem, and honestly, this one might be the most staggering of all. OpenAI is burning through cash at a rate that is just astonishing.
Get this, according to some internal documents that were seen by The Information, OpenAI is projected to lose $14 billion in 2026 alone. That is 3 times worse than what people were estimating earlier. They are just hemorrhaging money.
And right here, this is the crucial disconnect. The company has spending commitments of over $1 trillion for things like data centers, but then you look at their annual revenue and it's just $13 billion. Think about that. They are promising to spend nearly 100 times what they actually make in a year. It's absolutely no wonder that investors are starting to get really nervous.
And here you have the CEO of NVIDIA, right? OpenAI's key chip supplier, basically walking back claims of a massive investment. When your most important partners start sounding this hesitant, this cautious, that is a very bad sign. Confidence is clearly fading.
Finally, all of this brings us to the man at the very center of it all, Sam Altman. With so much money on the line, the fourth big problem is whether the person making these trillion-dollar promises can actually be trusted to deliver on them.
When you look at his track record, as it's been reported, you start to see a pattern of promises that, well, they didn't exactly pan out. From allegedly misrepresenting user numbers at his very first company, to unfulfilled promises he made at Reddit, all the way to being fired by his own board for reportedly lying to them.
And look, that accusation doesn't come from a random critic. It comes directly from OpenAI's own co-founder and former chief scientist, Ilya Sutskever. When your own co-founder accuses you of that, it raises some really serious questions about the credibility of the promises being made to investors and to all of us.
So when you put it all together, the picture becomes a lot clearer. This isn't just a company having a bad quarter. This is a massive, high-stakes gamble that's been built on a pretty shaky foundation.
So let's just recap the core crisis, right? The very technology that powered their incredible rise has stalled out. The competition that they once dismissed is now eating their market share. Their spending is completely, totally disconnected from reality. And the leader who's steering the ship has let's say, a questionable track record.
You know, OpenAI started as a nonprofit that was supposed to benefit all of humanity. Now, it's a for-profit giant betting trillions of dollars on a technology that seems to be hitting its limits. So the question we're all left with is pretty simple. Is this the beginning of the end for the world's most famous AI company? Well, I'll leave that one up to you.